I never thought I'd be the kind of person to sit back and watch my life fall apart in slow motion, but when it finally happened, I realized something. Destruction is a lot quieter than people think. It doesn't come with loud crashes or dramatic showdowns. It creeps up, settling into your bones before you even notice. My name is Laura, and at the time, I was 29. I had a stable job in marketing, a fiancé I adored, and a wedding date set for the summer. Everything in my life was falling into place so perfectly that I almost felt guilty about it. Almost. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that perfect lives don't exist. Only illusions of them do. And mine was about to shatter in a way I never saw coming. My sister Julia had always been competitive. That's the nice way to put it. The truth? She had a habit of wanting things that weren't hers. Growing up, she would borrow my clothes and never return them, take credit for my ideas in school projects, and somehow always date the guys who had shown interest in me first. It was annoying, sure, but I chalked it up to sibling rivalry. I never thought she actually hated me. That's what made it so easy to overlook the little things, the way she was always a little too interested in my relationship with Daniel, my fiancé. The way she laughed at his jokes in that lingering way, the kind that makes a man feel like he's the funniest person in the world. The way he looked back at her. But love makes you blind, and I was wearing the thickest rose-colored glasses imaginable. Looking back, the signs were all there. The way Julia always found a reason to touch Daniel's arm when she talked to him, the way she'd make sly little comments about how lucky I was to have him, as if she were measuring his worth for herself. But I ignored it. I was too busy planning my wedding, picking out floral arrangements, and choosing the perfect dress, blissfully unaware that the person I trusted most was sharpening a knife behind my back. The truth didn't hit me in a dramatic soap opera moment. It wasn't a crumpled love letter or a lipstick stain on his shirt. It was a text message, sent by mistake. It was late at night, and my phone buzzed while I was in bed. Half asleep, I reached for it, expecting a message from Daniel saying goodnight. Instead, I saw Julia's name on the screen, and a message that made my stomach drop. I can't wait to finally have you all to myself. She has no idea. For a few seconds, I just stared at it, my brain refusing to process what I was reading. Then, before I could even breathe, 3 little dots appeared. Typing. The message vanished. She must have realized her mistake and unsent it, but it was too late. I had seen it. And in that moment, something inside me cracked open. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I stared at my phone, waiting, hoping that maybe it was some kind of misunderstanding, that maybe she'd text back, saying something, anything that would make it make sense. But nothing came. Just silence. My hands felt ice cold, my breath shallow, my own sister, my fiancé, the 2 people I trusted the most. I should have felt devastated, but something else took its place. Something sharper, something that spread through my chest like wildfire. I wasn't going to let them destroy my life, not without consequences. I spent the next few days in a fog, pretending everything was normal. Julia still sent her usual texts about wedding plans, as if she hadn't just shattered my world. Daniel kissed me goodbye every morning, completely unaware that I knew. I played along, smiling in all the right places, letting them think I was still the fool they took me for. But inside, I was planning. Because if they wanted to betray me, if they wanted to humiliate me, I was going to make sure they paid for it. Not with screaming or accusations, but with something they'd never forget. I didn't confront them. Not yet. That would have been too easy. Instead, I started gathering information, carefully, quietly. I needed to know how far this had gone, how deep the betrayal ran. So I started checking Daniel's phone when he left it unattended, reading his messages while he showered, scrolling through his call logs when he went for a run. And what I found? It made my stomach churn. Late-night messages, secret meetups, plans for after the wedding, because apparently they had decided to wait until I was officially out of the way before making their relationship public. As if I were just some temporary inconvenience, some obstacle they needed to maneuver around. But the worst part? The money. Oh, the money. Daniel wasn't just cheating, he was using me. We had been saving up for our dream house, or at least that's what I thought. In reality, my so-called fiancé had been siphoning money from our joint account, little by little, moving it into one under his name. And guess who had access to that account? Julia, my dear sister. They were planning to take what was mine, my savings, my home, my future, and leave me with nothing. They must have thought I was stupid, that I wouldn't notice. But they underestimated me. And that was their biggest mistake. I played my part perfectly. I let Julia help me pick out wedding decorations, let Daniel hold my hand while we visited venues, let them both believe I was walking blindly toward my own destruction. Meanwhile, I was setting the stage for theirs. The first thing I did was visit a lawyer, quietly, discreetly. I wanted to know exactly how much damage I could do before pulling the trigger. The good news? Since most of the money in our joint account came from my salary, and I had receipts to prove it, I had grounds to reclaim every single penny. The better news? Daniel had unknowingly left a paper trail of his little side transactions. And the best news? I wasn't just going to take my money back. I was going to make sure they felt it. Step 1. I started slowly draining the account myself, transferring funds into a separate account under my name. Not enough to raise suspicion, just enough to make sure they wouldn't have a damn thing left when this was over. Step 2. I made sure Daniel believed I was all in on the wedding. I even suggested we up the budget, spend a little extra to make the day more special. He agreed immediately, of course. After all, he wasn't paying for it. I was. Step 3. I waited. I waited until the wedding day itself, until my sister was in her pristine white dress, until Daniel was standing at the altar, looking at me like I was the love of his life. And then I set the world on fire. The church was packed. Friends, family, co-workers, everyone who mattered was there, waiting for the perfect moment when I would say I do. Julia was in the front row, glowing with fake excitement, probably thinking about how she had won, how she had stolen everything from me without consequence. Daniel stood at the altar, confident, relaxed. He had no idea what was coming. I walked down the aisle slowly, savoring every second. My heart was pounding, but not from nerves, from anticipation. I let the priest get through the opening words, let the tension build, let everyone bask in the illusion of a beautiful wedding. And then, when it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath, smiled sweetly, and said loud enough for the entire church to hear, "Before I marry you, Daniel, there's something you should know. And Julia, you might want to listen too." A hush fell over the church. I could feel the weight of 100 pairs of eyes shifting between me, Daniel, and Julia. He laughed, a nervous little chuckle, like I was about to make some cutesy confession about how I once ate cake for breakfast. Julia, on the other hand, went rigid, her fingers curled into the fabric of her dress, her face frozen in a tight, polite smile. I could practically hear the gears in her head turning, wondering if I had found out. If I knew. I turned to face the crowd, making sure I had everyone's full attention. Then I pulled out my phone, clicked a few buttons, and let my voice ring through the church speakers, because, of course, I had planned ahead. "I can't wait to finally have you all to myself." She has no idea. Julia's own voice echoed through the room, her words, the words she had meant for Daniel, now heard by everyone. Gasps rippled through the guests. My mother clutched her pearls. My father's face darkened. And Daniel? He went pale. Julia let out this strangled noise, somewhere between a gasp and a whimper, as if she had been physically struck. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I let it stretch, let them feel the weight of it. Julia's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Daniel took a shaky step toward me, reaching out like he could somehow undo what had just happened. "Laura, let's talk about this," he started, but I wasn't done. I turned back to the guests, scrolling through my phone as if casually checking emails. "Oh, but there's more," I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness. "See, my darling fiancé and my beloved sister weren't just sneaking around behind my back. No, they were planning a whole future together, one that involved my money, my savings, our future home. Funny thing is, I checked the account this morning, and guess what?" I looked straight at Daniel now, enjoying the way his face twisted with confusion, then panic. "It's empty." A murmur spread through the church. Julia's hands flew to her mouth. "You..." she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I transferred every last cent out weeks ago," I continued, tilting my head. "So tell me, you two, What exactly were you planning to do with a wedding you couldn't afford and a life you can't pay for? Daniel's face twisted into something ugly. Anger, panic, desperation. Julia looked like she might faint. "You're lying," she hissed, her voice shaking. Oh, she wished I was. I let out a soft laugh, pulling a neatly folded piece of paper from my bouquet. "Oh, Julia. You always thought you were the smarter one, didn't you? You always thought I was too naive, too trusting. But here's the thing. When you spend your whole life playing games, you forget that sometimes? The other person is playing too." I unfolded the paper, holding it up for dramatic effect. "Bank statements," I announced. "Every little transaction, every shady transfer. Oh, and the best part? The fraud report I filed this morning. Because, Daniel, when you started moving my money into your name, that was a crime." Gasps, murmurs. My father's face was red with fury, my mother shaking her head in stunned disbelief. Daniel's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. "Julia?" She was already taking tiny steps backward, like she could somehow escape this. "This isn't happening," she mumbled. "This isn't happening." But it was, and I wasn't done. "Oh, and Julia?" I called sweetly. She flinched. "You might want to check your phone. You'll see that your little secret messages, your plans, well, they're not so secret anymore." Her eyes went wide as she fumbled for her phone. The moment she unlocked it, a horrified gasp left her lips. I had forwarded everything to our family group chat, every single message. Julia's hands trembled as she scrolled through her phone, her face draining of color with every message she read. Daniel had gone completely still, his hands clenched at his sides, his breath coming in short, uneven bursts. The weight of the moment settled over them, over the entire church, thick and suffocating. I could feel the stares burning into me, some shocked, some horrified, some impressed. But I didn't care about them. This moment wasn't for them. It was for me, for the woman they had tried to break. I turned to Daniel, my voice softer now, but no less sharp. "I loved you," I said, and I meant it. I had loved him with everything I had, and he had taken that love, that trust, and turned it into something rotten. I would have done anything for you, and you repaid me by plotting behind my back, by taking my money, my future, and handing it over to the one person I should have been able to trust the most. I swallowed hard, feeling the sting in my throat. But I wasn't going to cry. Not for him. Not for her. I hope it was worth it. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could he possibly say? That he was sorry? That it was a mistake? That he loved me? I could see the thoughts racing behind his eyes, the desperate search for an excuse, a way out. But there wasn't one. Not anymore. He had done this. They had done this. And now they had to live with the consequences. I turned to Julia next. My sister. My own flesh and blood. She wasn't even looking at me. She was staring at the ground, shoulders hunched, as if she could shrink away from the reality she had created. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The word carried more weight than any accusation ever could. Why? Why would she do this to me? Why had she always needed to take what was mine? For the first time since this all started, I saw something flicker in her eyes, shame, regret, maybe even fear. But she didn't answer. And honestly, it didn't matter anymore. I took a slow, steady breath, letting the silence stretch between us. There was nothing left to say. No excuse, no apology would ever be enough. And maybe that was what hurt the most. Not just the betrayal, but the realization that Julia had never truly cared about me the way a sister should, that Daniel had never truly loved me the way I had loved him. I turned back to the crowd, my family, my friends, people who had come here expecting a wedding but had instead witnessed something far more raw and real. My voice was steady when I spoke. I'm not going to let this moment define me. I refuse to be the woman they thought they could manipulate, use, discard. So instead of a wedding, let's call this a celebration. A pause. Then, with a small, triumphant smile, I added, "A celebration of dodging a massive bullet." Laughter. Actual laughter rippled through the crowd, not out of cruelty, but out of sheer shock and admiration. People started clapping, someone even cheered, and just like that, the power shifted. I wasn't the victim. I was the woman who had just exposed 2 snakes in front of everyone they cared about. I was the one who walked away with my dignity intact, my money secured, and my future mine to reclaim. As the laughter faded and the weight of everything settled, I felt something shift inside me. A quiet kind of grief, not for them, not for what we had, but for the version of myself that had once believed in them. The woman who had spent years loving a man who never truly loved her back. The sister who had held on to memories of childhood, thinking they meant something, that they mattered. I wasn't leaving that version of me at the altar today. I was burying her. I stepped down from where I stood, past Daniel's frozen, humiliated form, past Julia, who was still gripping her phone like it held the answer to undoing this nightmare. I walked toward my parents, my mother's eyes filled with tears. Not of sadness, but something softer, something like pride. My father, ever the quiet man, reached out and squeezed my hand. "Let's go home," he murmured, and for the first time in weeks, I let out a real breath. "Yeah," I whispered back. "Let's go home." As I stepped out of that church into the bright, open air, I realized something. I had lost a fiancé, and I had lost a sister. But I had gained something far more valuable. Myself.